Hey, happy Global CE Day, everybody. I've got Melvin Mazid from, and he'll pronounce his name correctly for me, from Australia, the president of the Clinical Engineering Society of Australia. How you doing today, Melvin?
Great, Tom. And yourself?
Pretty good. For me, 7:30 in the morning, 10:30 at night. So we'll keep moving, brother. Tell us
Yeah.
about your clinical engineering role, your job there in Australia.
Okay. I'm a biomedical engineer based in a tertiary teaching hospital at in Sydney, Australia. We consist of a district which consists of several hospitals within Sydney. We manage about four facilities, which consist of about 20,000 pieces of assets, basically. We consist of a team of about 30, but we're one of the unique departments in Sydney, or I'm part of a state, New South Wales, and we in Australia, the two departments we consist of, the department that I consist of is called the Medical Devices Services section, and also we have another group called the Assistive Technology and Seating Group, which predominantly provides rehab and assistive technology seating solutions to quadriplegic patients, while the division I'm predominantly involved with is your typical health technology management or lifecycle technology management. The group that I manage consists of electronics and mechanical technicians with a group of engineers. We provide, if you want to call it, a lifecycle management of devices, basically.
Melvin, I love what's unique about clinical engineering in Australia. I mean, somewhat unique. The focus on assistive rehab clinical engineering is wonderful. I know you have a lot of the traditional work, but you also have a big focus on rehab, and it's a very cool approach. Tell us about, I know you've been around clinical engineering in Australia for a good while. In the past year or so, you assumed presidency of the society. Tell us all about how many engineers and more about your society.
Okay, it's interesting. I've been the chair of the National Committee of Clinical Engineers in Australia for now. I took the role about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Australia is a very diverse country, as you know. We consist of basically states and territories throughout, and what we're very broadly quite challenged by distance. So we have what you call sort of your metropolitan biomedical and sort of your regional rural settings of biomedical engineering. And they both have different challenges. We also, in terms of trying to collaborate within the country, poses some challenges, and trying to pose issues around that. But to be honest with you, Tom, I'm just trying to think of the numbers that we would consist as a country in terms of both technical and engineering. We're not a large number. I shouldn't quote you the number, but we're much smaller than the bigger nations as in Europe or Asia or even the US. But we do bring our sense of knowledge and expertise in that space.
Well, one of the things I've talked with you and Adrian Richards and Lisa Kopinski and others there in the past is your incredible training of new young clinical engineers. And I got to come to your ABEC there in Darwin a few years back and got to participate in that. And you guys do an incredible job of bringing young clinical engineers into the fold.
That is correct. One of the things that is unique that we do, part of our committee is basically we do two folds. We have a sort of an annual conference. And just preceding that conference, we have a, what we try to do is select or try to get groups of young biomedical engineers coming through the system, and then are mentored by leaders in the group. And this is a 2-day workshop that we undertake, and we and it's been great value. I've been part when I was a sort of a, if you want to call it, a young engineer coming in through the system. I went to that workshop and I found it valuable because it gave you an opportunity to network and also build relationships through your career that when you needed the knowledge, you could lean on. And I found it valuable. And some of those young engineers that have gone through that program, if you want to call it that, have developed quite well in the system. You know, and the workshop, which I'll try to give a quick overview. It's basically a, you know, selected topics are given, they pick those topics, they present, and they are, on the day, they're given feedback, but it's an opportunity to just, you know, familiarize some of the challenges that is faced in the industry. And it's given, you know, and it's a sort of a round table with other people around that. So, you know, during that workshop to, you know, see what other thoughts are, you know. So it's a very valuable learning, teaching tool, I think, as well. And what I also mentioned is a networking as well.
I think it's a world-class model that others could emulate. So tell us about clinical engineering during the times of COVID in Australia.
It's very, was an interesting thing. One of the things that we, I can say, because, you know, some of the Europe and of course China, we picked up some of the lessons, but it's also posed some interesting challenges around for us. In one of our personal, on my experiences, one of the things was procurement and trying to do procurement quickly, and that posed challenges because there was, as you're probably aware of, there was global shortages started to occur. But so the things were to make rapid decisions in what to procure and how to procure. You know, that's things of natures of like ventilators, patient monitoring. I'm just picking a classic example. And then once you started getting these equipment, I mean, and I'm talking predominantly around equipment, is how to put them in service rapidly, because there was other logistics of storage and, you know, basically manpower to do the work that is required sometimes to put this equipment in use. So that was one of the challenges. But one of the other things that we undertook in Australia to try to share some knowledge was set up a WhatsApp group, which is sort of in line to what was done within this group, and share some knowledge around as well, which we tried to do. But yeah, and then on a side note, which I wasn't involved with, but I know that it was sort of like, because ventilators were short, mechanical ventilation. So there was a group set up to undertake those. I think there was some, how can I say, some startups, if I can call it loosely, were created to undertake some ventilation build and design. And that's progressed quite well in Australia, and that's available. And there is some government initiatives were introduced, you know. So there was some good things have come out of it. As I've mentioned earlier when we're talking offline, you know, Australia is in a better place compared to globally. So we're making good strides, but those challenges would still reside with COVID because, you know, this can be a second wave, a third wave.
Sure. Well, I know you're a big place and you're a diverse place, like you said, with the urban centers and the rural centers, and very far apart often from one another. Well, let's close, Melvin, and just talk a little bit about what's your vision for the future of clinical engineering in your country.
The biggest challenges that we reside is getting the next cohort of biomedical engineers. We're a country of aging biomedical engineers. We need to get the next generation through. And I think it's getting the education programs in place, getting the robustness, passing on those the knowledges that the last generation, if I can put it loosely, has got, and pass that on to the next generation, so we can still grow and improve the systems that are already in place. The other challenges that I see is standardization of processes, and that the things we do well now, we need to take it to the next level and continue looking for other opportunities. Those are the two areas that will predominantly will start to get more attention as we develop. We're still a sort of, if you look at it in the pure sense of engineering, in the traditional sense, like mechanical, electrical, we're a very small field, no doubt about it. And it's try to attract students who graduate into our field. And that's the biggest areas we have to consider, in this clinical engineering or biomedical engineering field. So those are current
I love
things
your vision, Melvin, and I'm glad a young guy like you is worried about old people like us.
No, yeah, you guys have done, globally and in Australia, have done a wonderful job, and it's just making sure we continue and take that forward and take it to the next level.
Well, I know you ride on the shoulders of those that are still practicing, but that have come before you. I think of Adrian Richards and others. Hey, thanks for your time today, and we appreciate getting an update from CE Australia.
No problems. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.